Hey, it's Brad. Several years ago, I was doing a comic book called Adult Baby Vigilante. I thought it was just a hilarious idea to have a guy running around fighting crime, wearing a baby bonnet, and like having like rubber ducky shoes on, and driving around in like a souped up motorcycle that said Adult Baby Vigilante on it. And also, he's beating people up with a rattler, and then he uses that as like a grappling hook. And then he's got like a utility belt like Batman does. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. It never got finished because the artist, who was in the Philippines, had a flood and got attacked by snakes and had to fight them off with machetes, and and wasn't able to finish the art because he had to deal with all this drama. So it was funny when Ted, the other half of Dead Harvey, contacted me and said, "Hey, there's this guy that made this movie called Manbaby, and he's reached out to us. You got to interview him." So it was sort of like simpatico for a little bit, but anyways, it was really fun talking to Tim Lightell, the director of Manbaby, and sort of inspired me. Maybe I'll one day finish that Adult Baby Vigilante comic. So without further ado, here's my interview with Tim Lightell, director of the movie Manbaby. Welcome to the Dead Harvey podcast. This is Brad. I have a very awesome guest today. This is going to be a very unusual podcast. Not since the days of Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, or European Gigolo have we seen a Manbaby featured so prominently. In fact, in Deuce Bigalow, in a lot of movies, you see like Manbabies or adult babies, you see them in very small portions. But this movie features it, and it is called Manbaby. This and I have the writer and director with us today, Tim Lightell. Tim, where did you come up with this crazy ass idea?
Well, thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate being on the Dead Harvey podcast. The way this movie came to me was 10 years ago. I worked making fetish videos. So I was
Wow.
making porn adjacent fetish videos for mostly like female domination type things.
Whoa.
And the biggest sellers in that industry are diaper videos. So that was the biggest commercial. That's where the demand was, right? Also around that time, I had Netflix, like a lot of us do, and I watched a movie called The Baby, directed by Ted Post, which I know you're familiar with.
Fantastic movie. Fantastic movie. Also made Magnum Force in 1973. They came out at the same time, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So he's a interesting director, and that is a really interesting movie. And so those two things combined, it got this little bug in my head. Hey, I'm gonna make kind of like an exploitation movie for now, for the 21st century, about something that would get diaper lovers and adult baby lovers and those types of people interested. So it's definitely kind of initially like a commercial idea. Like I was like, okay, like there is a market for this, right? As I started writing, I realized that that's not really the kind of movie that I want to make. I'm not really like an exploiter. I'm not really an exploitation person. I love those movies. I definitely thought of this along those lines when we started. But as I was going back and forth with the script with the editor who was not just editing the movie, but he's also editing the script with me. As we go through that, we realized that we had something much more unique, and so that's what became Manbaby. It's a more of a surreal comedy than an exploitation movie. It's more of it's art film adjacent, but I still think it is an exploitation comedy in a lot of ways. There's that part to it, but it's also kind of a mainstream comedy in some respects.
That's what I got from it. I got that. I said this movie it's unusual. It's probably got like some very unusual background to it, but it does have a certain mainstream appeal to it because the genesis of the movie is basically there's a guy who's a trust fund
trust fund baby or trust fund adult, and he
Mm-hmm.
wants his he's married, and his wife's mom is not very approving of him because he does stand-up comedy as an adult baby, which is hilarious. He comes home as an adult baby and everything, so he's getting like these bad looks from the mom, and then the wife's kind of lecturing him. He really wants the wife to be a mom. He wants to have kids really bad, which is sort of the opposite, like when you gender swap their relationship. So that's kind of cool. That's unusual. And to get her to do this, he tricks her by having his new age friend pretend to give him a potion, and then he acts like a baby, and then she turns him into a real baby towards the end, which is awesome. That's like the total like shift where it becomes like a baby to me. But it felt like it did have like a very mainstream pull to it. It goes into like unusual places, but you almost feel like you're watching like a rom-com or something for quite a bit of the movie, which is hilarious. It's just such a unusual take to it. But yeah, that's what I got from it. It was very like, it's very kind of like centered when it brings you into it, but it does have a very mainstream approach. I got that. I was wondering whether that's where you're going with that, but I totally got that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about the mainstream approach, because we when we were kind of planning the production, obviously you can see it's a very low budget production.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of money. It's, the first production was Kickstarter. Okay. But when we were thinking about it, we were like ABC family movie. That this should be like an ABC family movie. But with everything just a little skewed. Specifically, like you talk about like the plot, right? Like this idea that he's going to pretend to be a baby to get her to be a mom. It's almost like the Simpsons kind of thing, but it's even weirder than that, because I feel like even Homer is not that stupid. It's a really dumb plan.
True.
And yet somehow we said, okay, if we can get them to go, at least 10-20 minutes into it, then we have them, and so that's kind of the idea, is that it's a ridiculous setup, but there is a payoff there. It makes it worth it.
Yeah, it takes some good twists and turns toward the second half and towards the end as well too. There's like some, I don't want to give anything away, but actually I won't say anything about that. But there's some cool stuff that I did not see coming in this movie, especially like once they reach that ending part as well too. And
we go to the future. We go to the future.
It's like a lifetime. Yeah, there's
travel.
a lifetime movie feel to it. This totally has like a Lifetime or Hallmark kind of like seasonal, the way that it's lit too, because it's very bright, kind of like those Lifetime movies. But then it definitely becomes like a dark comedy, and it goes into some horror territory, sort of paralleling The Baby in a little bit in sections of it. But yeah, no, I think it's a really cool like hodgepodge of all these different elements. Tell us about your Kickstarter campaign. How'd you go about that, and how'd you
so Kickstarter was first successful. So I'm kind of a guy, I kind of build the plane while I'm flying it. I knew I had to get some money to make this movie beyond what I had, and so my parents were super supportive and helpful, and they said we'll match a Kickstarter, and so they were able to like match my kind of lowball Kickstarter number. And that got us basically, it's gone on like, 9 years ago now. But I think we got through all of production with that small amount of money. And then I had to edit it, and I said, what do I do? What do I do? So that's kind of why it has taken so long. That's part of it. We got some great footage. We got some great stuff, and we got some not so great stuff. We shot the script basically as written, and it was a pretty far along draft. But then, from that we wheedled away a lot of the script. So there's a lot in the script that's not in this movie. There's a lot more character development. I don't know how obvious that is to someone who doesn't know that, but there's a lot more going on with Sal's friend on the boat, with Cersei, the new age gal, kind of like B and C stories that are completely gone from the movie, to just make it clearer, to just make it punchier, to just make it more accessible for just a wider audience. That's the big thing with this movie, is that it's funny that you do go to the Lifetime thing. It's obviously not that kind of movie at all, and yet at the same time I just wanted it to be as mainstream as possible. I did want it to be as accessible to maybe 12, 13-year-old could watch this and not be too scandalized. But I feel like if they think about it for a little while, then they might be.
Right.
If you think about the movie for a while, then it is a little bit more adult. But yeah. So the first Kickstarter was successful. We shot everything that we needed to, started the editing process, and then we realized we needed to do another Kickstarter for the kind of more intense post-production that we needed. And then that Kickstarter actually failed, unfortunately. So that increase. So, if you don't have money, you do have time, right? So
yeah, that's true.
It's a project that is just like, when we're not doing our day jobs, we're working on, shooting. And then when we're not doing our day jobs, we're working on editing. And that took a while, but we got there. So pretty exciting stuff to be done now. And now that we're done, we're screening August 17th in Seattle. We're going to be at the Central Cinema on the big screen.
That's awesome.
And that's super exciting, after this whole process. And then again, screening on the 20th in Portland. So again, another West Coast screening. And that's a free show, open to everybody who can come down to Portland to come see us August 20th. At 7:00, and then 2 shows in Los Angeles on August 26th and August 27th. So,
awesome!
Super excited about these screenings.
Have you done any test screenings with it yet? With like casting?
We haven't. No, we haven't done a test screening. On the big screen yet. I've screened it on the big screen, so I've projected it. So I've definitely watched it on a big screen multiple times, multiple times on a big screen and on my television, and on my computer monitor, obviously. And I would have loved to have done test screenings, because I think that is super helpful. I know a lot of filmmakers who are very much into their vision, and I'm into my vision somewhat. But I do think test screenings are a really helpful way to get information. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do those, but I have a pretty tight circle of people who I went to school with, and friends of mine who aren't filmmakers, and friends of mine who are filmmakers, and kind of showing it to them at the various stages, I think helped a lot. Kind of piece it together and get it in pretty lean shape.
Have you got any feedback from people that are not used to like cult movies or anything else like that? Just like total normies. Have you gotten any feedback from them?
Yeah, definitely. That was some of the like kind of early rough cuts. I did it to some normies, some muggles, and got some really good ideas about how sympathetic or unsympathetic certain characters were.
Yeah.
So that was pretty helpful. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in showing it to people to kind of get feedback and try to craft it around the feedback, because certain things that I think are I'm a weirdo. I have weird ideas, and so I do try to show it to in my mind average folks, but who knows how weird those folks are, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's surprising, because it was done in a very it's a very unusual movie, but it does have a lot of mainstream components to it, and it does have like that sitcom element to it. It's funny to see something like with like such a unusual hybrid or mix to it. But it's cool. I think this is what's great about independent movies. This is like a total a playground where you can experiment and do whatever you want, and maybe even create your own genre, if it works. So I think that's cool. You're constantly seeing this is like what we see in indie movies, aside from Hollywood movies, is they keep remaking stuff. Or they would do like a remake of The Baby, but it wouldn't even resemble it, except for just like name only, but it's always like remakes, always like kind of like stale things, with a few exceptions. But the indie stuff that I've been seeing is just kind of going off the rails with how different and unusual and experimental everything is getting. I think it's really cool. I think this time that we're in is actually really cool, especially for when I was talking to somebody about this recently about, when COVID, when everything shifted over to streaming, now you're going to get a chance to play this movie in some theaters, but also like the streaming market for it, I think is going to be like, we're seeing like a lot of success with that, because everybody got so used to streaming over COVID now that it's gonna, I think like the indie audience for that's gonna pretty much boom as a result of that.
I think absolutely. So Yeah, for this release, you know, we're doing it all independently, so there's no real distribution behind it other than my own company.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're doing it in theaters, but also streaming simultaneously. So
Mhm.
simultaneously, you be able to rent it on Vimeo.
That is cool. It's a
Um,
good idea. Yeah.
and that's the way.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the way Hollywood's kind of doing
Mhm.
it too. I mean,
Yeah.
Dune came out, and then Dune was immediately on HBO. So
Yeah.
it's very we're trying to keep it, you know, as mainstream as possible
Yeah.
with our strange you know, story and kind of strange subject matter, you know.
Yeah, and how did you go about, like, okay, so with the actors that you picked on there, did you know them beforehand, or how did you go about approaching them with the subject matter?
Yeah, so all the actors are kind of like Seattle underground theater
Hmm.
actors who I did a bunch of auditions, and kind of met a bunch of people, and I kind of rewrote the script for the folks who I liked, you know, and who kind of got it, you know. Um, Asa, who plays Sal Howard, the Manbaby,
Hmm.
he was actually referred by Cersei, the girl who plays
Hmm.
the new age gal, Cersei. You know, she said, "Oh, I know this guy who would be perfect for him," and so we actually had like I had three different guys kind of in mind for that role,
Hmm.
and it just so happened that he was kind of just the most available,
Yeah. Oh, he was
basically.
great. Yeah, he was great. Yeah.
And he's great, you know. He's great. He's a really good theatrical performer. You know, he's been in a bunch of stage productions, and he's written plays too. He's really great. I mean, everybody on the cast and crew is kind of artists in their own
Yeah.
right. You know, Sydney, who plays Dana, the wife, you know, she's a fantastic artist, like visual artist and musician. Um, Anya, who is Cersei, is award-winning poet, I believe, and forgive me if they're listening to this, they have to forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but I mean, they're everybody on the cast, you know, has a really kind of substantial artistic body of work that I was really proud of. It had nothing to do with me casting them,
Hmm.
but everybody was kind of into the idea of, you know, this kind of DIY. We're gonna make art. We're gonna make fun art. We're gonna make this movie here in Seattle and make it for no money, and just kind of do it and create this art. So that's helpful when everybody's kind of into it for the art, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they like everybody, it was great because like everybody seemed like 100% committed to it. So yeah, you didn't get the, and like, which is great because you're kept in the movie the whole time. It's especially important with like a movie that's a little bit different for everybody to be completely into it, but they were all immersed and it was great. And Sal had awesome comic timing too.
Yeah, I think he's great. He's great in it. I think that, you know, yeah, if there is a strong part of this movie for sure,
Mhm.
it's the performances.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like they are really, you know, a little bit above what I've seen in kind of these no budget indie
Hmm.
movies for performances. I feel like they really kind of took the cake for their acting, you know.
Yeah. What was the biggest, well, aside from money, I guess, what was the biggest challenge with making this movie?
Yeah, I mean, money is the biggest, but I would say, you know, next after that, it's just scheduling, because it's just everybody's working nine to
Hmm.
five jobs, or not even 9 to 5 jobs. You know, Asa at the time, you know, Manbaby was working kind of shift work. He's a dad too, you
Hmm.
know, so he's taking care of his kids. There's just the pure like kind of getting people on set.
Hmm.
You know, scheduling
Yeah, yeah.
is the
There's
toughest
more than
thing.
one person to show up at the same. Yeah, that's why you notice like with all those movies, it's just like if they just have a couple people talking, you're like, that seems like that would probably be even difficult to get that because yeah,
Yeah.
scheduling does seem to be the most difficult problem. And plus, you were doing now. Were you doing it over like the span of time where you had to stop and then like pick up after several months, or?
A little bit. So, you know, I would say we got like 75% of the movie done
Mhm.
in October of 2014.
Yeah.
We had it, I rented a house. We had a house rental, which was kind of the set. And and kind of shot everything that happens in the house in one big chunk, and then and did that in about a month. And then in only about like 2 or 3 weeks, we shot everything in the lab, all the mad science lab stuff. We got that done in about 2 or 3 weeks right after that. And then the comedy club stuff was actually, like I said about the script, like there was a lot more in the script that we shot. So the comedy club stuff was actually like planned on being like a 2-day shoot. I think it was, and then it became only a 1-day shoot. So we were already like editing, in camera, getting stuff done there. So, but yeah, I would say that we were mostly done everything by 2015. I'd say like that was like 99% done. But then we did pickups in 2020 over the pandemic. So you had like a 5-year pause before we went ahead and then like we had to like kind of reshoot some stuff and just shoot some clarifying information, like mostly like pickup, like, and I say pickup, it's like close, like extreme close-ups, that kind of thing. No real like scene reshoots happened at all, actually. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. But yeah, so there are some parts that are like 5 years apart from each other, I guess. But yeah, I would say for the most part we got most of it done when we were actually shooting it, most of it.
And I think it's smart to keep it so like low budget like that too, because you save yourself from, when you kept the locations like simplistic. It's like there were some big ideas in it, but you also kept it minimalistic, which is great. And that's like what Ted and I always talk about, is like having these like much larger ideas, because there's larger ideas like with the science lab and everything, but and that's like what indie movies I think do great, is when they're restricted, they use those, like they tap into those larger ideas, but the scale of it's smaller, but you're thinking that you're watching something, your brain is sort of tricked into watching something much larger because the ideals are much larger, like the place that they work at, the lab that they work at, where they come up with all the secrets and everything. That kind of reminded me of this is what I was going to ask you, because that reminded me of Weird Science at the beginning when it was showing the lab. But what are the other instincts, or like what are the other influences that you brought into it aside from the Ted Post classic?
Oh yeah, I would say I mean, my personal specifically for this movie, I always say, that movie Gaslight, which is a great noir from the 40s, about the guy tricking his wife into thinking she's gone crazy. I thought that was kind of a big influence on this. Definitely some of the early John Waters movies, Pink Flamingos, and that sort of thing definitely influenced me. And especially in terms of like, hey, like let's just get a camera and make a movie kind of thing, and we can do it ourselves. Another big influence on this movie actually is the famous art film Last Tango in Paris. Brando, Brando is in it, and because it's about weird sex. And Manbaby's not about weird sex, but it kind of is in a in this very subtle covert way, I guess. So those are some of the big ones. I mean, definitely Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and just the Pee-wee Herman persona was a big thing that we talked about a lot.
I forgot the guy, the friend of his that was playing in the tub, Francis.
Francis.
He was back. Totally forgot about that. Yeah, see, but these are all cameos in all these other movies, aside from like the main character being about them.
Right.
That's funny. You mentioned Pee-wee. No, that's cool. Like some noir influences in there. Last Tango in Paris was rated X from what that's a movie they show a lot of people in film school, actually, like Last Tango in Paris.
It is. Yeah. I didn't watch it until it was on Netflix, I don't think. But yeah, gosh, it really knocked me out. Specifically, I mean, that's an influence. I think, it's hard in Manbaby. I don't know if you saw this, but I was really trying. Also, I guess maybe a little bit of like Terry Gilliam, really trying to use wide lenses to kind of exaggerate visuals in Manbaby. I knew I didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I was definitely trying to kind of create that creepy atmosphere with the wide lenses,
Mm-hmm.
and long takes, and just kind of I don't know. I think that kind of makes it more surreal, more otherworldly,
Yeah.
more cartoony, right?
Yeah, that's right. It does give like that cartoonish kind of over the top vibe to it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely trying to
Mm-hmm.
like do kind of more like two-dimensional compositions,
Mm-hmm.
which I know my camera person Rakesh, who's fantastic like photographer,
Mm-hmm.
like outdoor nature photographer. Um, he really didn't like a lot of my ideas for things, but I really wanted to keep it kind of like a comic book, and
Mm-hmm.
not a comic book like a Marvel movie, but like a comic
Mm-hmm.
book like flat, like real flat kind of compositions and really kind
Mm-hmm.
of 2D, to kind of give it that just cartoony feel. Which looking back on it, as I look at some of the footage, sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have maybe given this a little bit more depth and a little bit more dynamicism,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it kind of goes back to I think more people will respond to that, right? It's a little bit more like conventional and normal when a movie has more depth and more of that. But that is kind of one little artistic thing that I guess I tried for and didn't quite pull it off the way I'd hoped, but got to try.
Yeah. So when you went to when you did your distribution, are you self-distributing this or did
I
you?
am, yeah. So this is all self-distributed through my company, which is Seattle Video Marketing. So
Mm-hmm.
my day job is that I make films in my day job, but just for video marketing. So kind of, I guess, a little bit like the great George Romero, right? Who
Yeah.
who did corporate work
Absolutely. He did all those industrial movies.
on the
Yeah.
industrials.
I can't remember what the name of his company was, but that's right. Yeah, he did all those like commercials and everything else. Yeah.
So yeah, so I do. I don't do a lot of commercials. I actually mainly do like social media
Mm-hmm.
ads, so video social media ads for companies. And that is also my company that had made Manbaby, and my company that is distributing Manbaby. So yeah, just doing it all ourselves. Obviously not a big money maker yet. Knock on wood, maybe. Who knows? We get it out there. We maybe sell some tickets. People listen to this podcast maybe and hear it. Come see it in Seattle. Come see it in LA.
Oh,
We'll see. We'll see how it
I
goes.
definitely think it has a chance to get a cult audience for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and what would you like people to what would you like people to walk away from after they watch this movie? What would you like them to get from this?
Yeah, the three big things that I'm trying to get out of people is I want to make people laugh. I
Mm,
want to make them have a good time, and at the same time, I want to make them squirm a little bit. I
right.
I want to
Yeah.
kind of make them get a little uncomfortable because as there's some uncomfortable things in this movie,
Mm,
and those two things combined, I think will do a really cool thing. I think it will make them think a little bit,
mhm,
and so that's what I just want to. And doesn't matter if you like this movie or you hate it, like that. I've been making movies since I was a little kid, and I have a pretty thick skin.
mhm,
Um, a lot of people are not going to like this movie. I can tell, even though we've been talking, we're like, hey, it's kind of I'm
mhm.
trying to make it mainstream, but I know that that's not necessarily going to happen, But if you laugh a little bit, if you laugh at it and you're like, oh, that's so silly, and you kind of get a little uncomfortable and it makes you think, then I think then then I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean that's all my three reactions I had with it.
Nice,
Like,
nice.
yeah, but like, yeah, it's hard to say like what people will, yeah, well, what kind of reaction people have to, especially if people that aren't familiar with cult movies. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's interesting. But I definitely do think it has a big cult movie potential for it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, I thank you.
absolutely.
I thank you. Can I ask what was your favorite part? If you had a
Oh,
favorite
well,
part?
I will tell you, like the one that sticks out in my mind right away that just kept making me laugh. There's a So there's when they do kind of like a montage about when she's learning how to like take care, when he tricks her into thinking that he's a baby, and so she's sort of like bonding with him, and they do that there's this part of the montage like they do in so many of these movies, like these Mr. Mom kind of movies, where, and they always have the same scene in there where like the guy's like changing the diapers, and so like she's changing them, and then you see like this stream like spray like in front of her face, and I just busted out loud laughing. It was just so like out of nowhere, but also the same thing, making fun of what they have in those montages and all those movies like that. It was just hilarious. But
that's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. It's funny that you mentioned that scene. Me and the editor have talked about that. How that might be the worst thing that he does to her.
Yeah.
You know, because he's pretending and he's really peeing on her, you know, and it's not good, not a good thing to do to someone, obviously. Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have laughed then.
Right. It makes you question things, I guess, right? I wonder about that all the time.
I just saw it as like it basically making fun of those sort of stock scenes, those sort of stock montage scenes. So that was the instinct. But yeah, now that you mentioned that, it was kind of maybe not very nice. But she does something very not nice to him after that. So I guess
this is true.
This is
true. This is true. I guess, you know, when you talk about cult movies, there is that's another genre that it kind of references, is kind of the rape revenge movie, right? It is kind of the I Spit on Your Grave kind of, you know, there is an element of that in this for sure that I hope, you know, people see and I don't know, appreciate or not. And then the other if you notice the kind of the jokes in the montage, were you familiar with the Tree of Life parody? I feel like that's something I should ask.
Oh, that one I'm not familiar with. No.
So kind of towards the. Have you seen the movie Tree of Life?
I think I've seen parts of it, but I haven't seen the whole. Yeah, I've only seen like little like sort of snippets of it.
Yeah, definitely the that last montage when he's a real baby. You know, when and he's got the makeup on and he's that montage is definitely pretty. It works in two different ways. It's pretty sincere because they are pretty happy, I guess, and it is really, but obviously it's really weird. She's forcing him to be a baby, which is you know, pretty horrific, and beneath all of that, it's kind of it's a little parody of some of the montages in the movie Tree of Life that
it's great.
People like, and so kind of weird parody reference, but definitely in there.
So. There will be some film nerds that will get that right away for sure.
I hope so.
Yeah. So tell us where we can find your work.
Yeah. So Manbaby is you can go to manbabymovie.com and you can get tickets for any of the live shows or streaming. You actually can't stream it right now until you stream it August 17th. So the day it comes out in theaters, then that's the day you can stream it and rent it. And August 17th, 7 p.m. in Seattle, Seattle Central District, Central Cinema is where the world premiere is going to be. I'm going to be there. Sydney's going to be there, which is really exciting. So you can meet Sydney, you can meet me, you can meet most of the crew is going to be there. Most of the actors are going to be there. Asa, who plays Manbaby, is not going to be there. He's going to be at our Portland show, which will be a couple days later, August 20th, Saturday night at 7. Asa will be there, and that's a free show. So that's going to be really fun. I'm going to be there again, and Asa's going to be there. Anybody that's listening, we'd love for y'all to come on out and see the show for free in Portland. Or if you're in Seattle, I think it's $14, and you can buy tickets now. So you can go online. If you go to manbabymovie.com, you can buy those tickets there on the website. And then the encore performance in Los Angeles, if there are any listeners in LA who want to come out and see us, it's going to be a late show, which, like you were saying, like there might be this kind of cult thing for this movie. This is going to be a later show in Los Angeles. It's 9:30 on a Friday night, August 26th, and 9:30 on a Saturday night, August 27th, at the Laemmle Royal in Los Angeles in West LA. So anybody that's listening, come on down to the Laemmle Royal, and I'll be there again. We won't have a Q&A there. It's just going to screen. We're not going to do any kind of events or anything, but I'll be there. So if you want to meet me and hang out and get a drink or something, come on down. Manbaby on the big screen all those nights. And then if you can't make any of those, manbabymovie.com, you just go there, click streaming, and you can rent it on Vimeo on the 17th.
Awesome. Yeah,
that's
so
how people can get it. Yeah.
Go check out Manbaby live if you can make any of these performances, or if you can make any of the live shows, and also if you can't, or just watch it again, watch it streaming, and then also do it as a double feature with the baby, because I think this would make a pretty sweet double feature with the baby. This one's a little bit more comedic, but it has some dark stuff in it. But the baby itself is pretty much like just dark the whole way through. So if you want to like start it a little bit funnier and then get more serious, or vice versa, swap it up. I think it'd make a fantastic double feature.
Agreed. I think that would be a cool little double feature for sure.
Awesome. Well, it's fantastic talking to you, Tim. And anything else you want to leave with the audience? Any final words?
No, just check out manbabymovie.com. I want to thank you guys so much for having me on. This has been great. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very curious to see how this movie develops and how the cult audience comes into it. So, and it's so bizarre too, because with cult movies, they can happen right away, or it could just be years later, and all of a sudden people discover it. But usually people discover it when it comes to streaming. So I think now we're going to see that happen sooner than later.
Yeah, exactly. I am excited to see what happens, but yeah, we're just trying to get this one out there now and see what happens. But yeah, gonna be exciting to see for sure. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we'll post updates on it as well too.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
great talking to you. We've been talking to Tim Lightell, director of Manbaby. I hope the audience has a good rest of the week, and we will see you next time on Dead Harvey Podcast.